Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Workforce Go webinar with our partner, Analytically. I'm Laura DeFazio with Workforce Go Marketing. If you're not familiar with Analytically, it's an analytical reporting tool that sits on top of Workforce Go. It's pulling data from the Workforce Go suite and presenting it in dashboards to make it easier for you to read. So HR managers can uncover trends and gain some insight into other areas that can drive some change for you and your business. So from Analytically, I have Jana and Nick, and I will let them tell a little bit about themselves and Analytically. So you guys can take it away. Nick?
Perfect.
Sorry.
Thank you so much, everybody. This is Nick Waltz. You'll hear my voice. I'll be driving the webinar here this afternoon. I'm an HCM consultant here with Analytically, so if you're interested, you'll probably hear from me again. I work a lot with customers, doing demos, answering questions, all those kinds of things. Jana?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jana Fieldworth. I'm president and co-founder of Analytically, and just very excited to share a little bit more of the Analytically story with you all and get some feedback and questions from the group.
Perfect. I am sharing my screen, and just to take a second to run through what we have in store for everybody today. Our plan for our time together is to, like Jana said, give you a little bit more about the Analytically story, how we got here, our partnership with Workforce Go, and then we want to walk you through Analytically, get to see the application live, what it does, some fun stories and things that we've been doing for customers. And the last thing that we'll talk a little bit about is how to get involved with Analytically. So if you're interested, we'll let you know the next steps. Without further ado, we'll jump right in here, and I'm gonna go ahead and pop up a timeline for everybody to see. This is a fun timeline. I'm sure Jana will have a few comments here, but basically just to give you a sense for how we got here, not only as a company, but as a Workforce Go partner. This is great for us to walk through. So several years ago, we started as Beyond Payroll, a service bureau very similar to Workforce Go, and that gave us context for what people were looking for in analytics. They had a number of customers that they were servicing, working for, and they heard a number of things from those customers, all kinds of feedback, and essentially what that drove them to do, and you can see that here with these elementary drawings, if you will, is create dashboards. They heard from customers that they wanted to see data, they wanted to visualize what was happening with their people and make decisions based on their data. They were struggling with reporting and customizing reports and all those kinds of things, and this was our team's solution. So we created these dashboards, we got feedback from customers along the way, from partners very much like Workforce Go, and we got the go-ahead and we said, let's do this. And so created the dashboards, and you're about to see those later here today. So when you think about some of those things that we were hearing from customers, the nice thing was we worked with them every day. What we didn't like was that our customers were in pain. And these are some of those comments or statements that we heard on a day-to-day basis when they were talking about reporting and getting their data. I'd love to hear, when we open it up later for questions or comments, or if you want to send your comments in, some of these statements, what resonates with you, what you maybe would add to this list or take off of this list when you think about reporting, getting your data out of Workforce Go, when you think about what you need data to do to make decisions. These are some of the things that we heard and some of the things that we help solve for.
Yeah, Nick, I think you bring up just some really great points in, I think as leaders, we are all looking to give our team members the right data at the right time to be successful. And as we were processing folks' payrolls and updating their time cards and providing these huge custom reports that showed monthly results, we really understood that it wasn't just the report that people were after. They wanted the ability to give managers information in flight to stay on that budget. So when you think about being reactive, not proactive, when you think about right information, right time, right people, there's a couple of barriers there that sit to be able to be proactive, not reactive. And it typically is that there's a lot of other priorities, that the data isn't all right there at your fingertips. And that's really what we focus and solve on. Thanks, Nick.
Absolutely. So what does that mean? You know, when we say we built this and we heard from customers and we did this, you may be wondering, what are they talking about? What have they built? And the answer is a suite of pre-curated dashboards. So when you think about analytics, it's a big nebulous word, right? It can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And so what we've tried to do is to create this pre-curated suite that has impactful bits of information and insights for people across your organization. So whether you're a CFO or a VP of HR or a manager or a payroll director, there's dashboard insights for everybody across your organization. You can see here this half moon, if you will, of our 7 dashboards, the dashboards that we've created from feedback from people like you. So people that use this information every day, like Jana said, to make those decisions and better their business. So these are the 7 dashboards that we've started with. These give people the foundation to start thinking in an analytical fashion. The next question you may have in your mind is, well, how does this work? How are they doing this? How are they creating these dashboards? And I promise you, you're going to see the dashboards really soon here. But analytically is really driven. We start with your Workforce Go data. So you have to be connected to the HR, payroll, timekeeping modules. We pull data from each of those. It's automated, it's secure, it's nightly. We try to keep it as real time as we can. We pull that data into our data warehouse. But then an additional benefit and really a competitive advantage, and something that we'll work with you on if you're a customer of ours, is supplementing that data from Workforce Go, that payroll timekeeping data, with business data. And so business data are things like budgets, revenues, forecasts, goals maybe, or if you have ERP data, things of that nature where you're tracking them in a different system outside of Workforce Go, but they're still critical to your business. And oftentimes they're very hard to see together. And oftentimes we found with our customers that their people data is that least common denominator, and they want to see everything in comparison with their people data, and they're just not able to get that. And so really the value of our data warehouse is that we can pull both sets of data in and then allow you to visualize that, work with our insights, things of that nature. So we pull in that business data into our data warehouse. Like I said, this is the brains behind our dashboards. Obviously you see the visual layer, but there's so much more going on behind the scenes. And so that all occurs in our data warehouse, where we do all that technical, nerdy data stuff. And I won't get in too far into the weeds. We'll leave some of that when we want to explore on a one-on-one basis with each of you. But we do those things in the data warehouse, which then allow us to push the data into the dashboards that you're about to see. So what we've done is we've created those dashboards. Like I said, they're pre-curated. And the reason that we did the pre-curated dashboards is because when we talked to customers and worked with customers, we found a couple things. The first is that oftentimes customers just don't know what they want. And so pre-curated dashboards, like I said, give you that launching point, if you will, for analytics and thinking analytically to make decisions for your business. The second thing is that customers didn't want to pay for expensive analytics solutions, things that were fully customizable, had integrations with all of their different systems. They wanted something simple, more affordable, more user-friendly. And again, that's why we architected our dashboards in that pre-curated fashion. The last bit of information that you may be wondering before we jump into this demonstration of the product is, how do we as a customer get involved or on to Analytically? You hear implementation a lot in this industry. When you think about softwares in general, implementation is a great word. It's a word that is extremely necessary, something that we rely on heavily. So we rely on the implementation of your Workforce Go instance, but then we leverage that. So that's our basis. And what we do is we sync to your instance. And so you've done a lot of work, and Workforce Go has done a lot of work to get your instance up and running. You know, we've created those cost centers. We've ran a few payrolls. Maybe you have some historical data in there. And what we do is we sync to that. So we sync to the data to be able to extract all that data out. You know, if you've been on for 5 years or 5 months, we pull all that data into, like I said, our data warehouse. It's a very simple process. This is the first step of what we call onboarding. And so we avoid implementation, we gear towards onboarding, and syncing is the very first step of that process. It takes very little of your time. We say just about an hour of your time to get synced. And from there, we take that data, it's in our data warehouse, and this is really where the work begins on our end. No work necessary from you when we think about tuning the data. So tuning the data is when we take that, we test it, we run it in through the visuals, make sure things are accurate, make sure it's populating correctly, and that those dashboards are going to give you the experience and the data that you need and that you expect. So we do the tuning of the data on our end. This takes anywhere from a few days to a few weeks, depending on how much data that you have. And then what we do is we train you. So when you think about where you're involved, just the first step, syncing, and the last step, training. And training is basically our chance to teach you two things. The first, how to use the solution. So when you see Analytically live here in just a second, you're going to see me clicking, you're going to see me moving about the application. You're going to learn how to do that. But then the second thing is you're going to learn how to leverage the solution. So when we walk with you through the sales process and the customer experience journey, we're always going to be focused on use cases, pain points that you may be having, really key bits of information that are critical to your organization, whether that's turnover or overtime or labor expense or head counts, etc. The list goes on and on. But the point is that we work with you to, first of all, discover what those use cases are, and then B, work with you to learn how to leverage the dashboards and the Analytically solution to make those decisions, to uncover that data, and to start to understand trends from the dashboards. So we're about to walk through Analytically. Super excited to show everybody Analytically, and just to give you a sense for some of the key things that you're going to see while we walk through the solution. You'll notice I touch on several of these 4 buckets, but these are also 4 of the key things that we help customers solve or find in the dashboard. So I won't read them all off, but I would love again to hear maybe which ones are important for everyone as we open up for comments or questions. Which of these 4 buckets is important? Maybe how you would rank these, or if there's some key things that you're maybe would want to add, whether that's overtime or head count, something of that nature. Would love to hear those as well. So I'm going to take a second here and pause and switch over my screen. I went ahead and shared my dashboards. And so we'll just take a few seconds here, let everybody catch up, and we'll dive in. So essentially what we're seeing here is the Analytically dashboards. I know you've heard a lot about them thus far through the presentation. And like I said, these are pre-curated, so you get a sense for, if you think back to that half moon, it's a very tabular feel here at the top. So you get those key dashboards. The way that we've organized is in that dashboard feel, and these focus on different areas of your business, right? So executive overview, human capital investment, workforce planning, talent overview, time and labor, and wage and benefit. So we've got these dashboards. The beauty of our solution is that we're constantly working to make these better. We're constantly making changes, adding to the dashboards, whether it's a whole new dashboard or maybe it's just a tweak in a visual. So I've actually been on calls where a customer has made a couple recommendations or had a few ideas of how we can better our product and better our dashboards. And we've taken those, implemented them, gone through the process to get those recommendations turned into visuals or brand new dashboards. So really exciting. We take feedback seriously, and we run with our customers' feedback because that's how we're built and that's how we'll continue to grow. So when you think about executive overview, what are we seeing here? An executive overview is that place where you come, maybe it's your CEO, maybe it's your VP of HR, or maybe it's a line manager. You come in and you start your day with a dashboard. You start your day with key metrics that are important for daily operations in a business. Things like active workforce, turnover, productive hours, or maybe it's employer cost, right? But the beauty is, with Analytically, this gives you a way to benchmark or compare internally, see how you're doing. So you can see here an aggregate, but maybe you want to know, how is one department doing versus another? And you can quickly pop in and pull up a department and compare one to another. And so if you are a department manager or maybe a regional manager, you can say, okay, I have a head count of X at location A, and that head count is much higher and they have much lower turnover than location B. And thus that's impacting labor expense. Yes, they're higher, but they're more productive. And so they're bringing in more revenue. And revenue, again, living outside of your Workforce Go system, it's an outside projection. Maybe it's from your ERP or POS or something of that nature. But you can come in, you can get those key metrics to see how you're doing, and then what decisions do you need to make for that day or for that week based upon the data that you're seeing here in the executive overview dashboard. So I highlighted it briefly with the example there, but want to just dive into the filters panel here for a second. The filters panel in Analytically is one of the most powerful tools that we have. It's really valuable to see your dashboards in aggregate, but we really feel where customers have the most success is when they start to dig and peel back the layers of the onion. And that's where the filters panel comes into play. So regardless of how big your business is or how small your business is, whether it's structured with departments or whether it's structured on contracts, we pull in your cost centers that you've set up in Workforce Go to make this filters panel relevant to your business. So we pull that in. We don't force you or pigeonhole you into one specific architecture. Again, we piggyback off of that implementation that you did with Workforce Go in your system to pull that in and make it relevant for you and how you view the business. So you can slice and dice by departments, whether those are nested. if you've got a department that's within a location, that's within a region, we pull that in, allow you to slice and dice there, all the way down to the position level and also the employee level.
I think, Nick, this is also a place where if you have an HR role, or if you have a finance role, or if you have an operations role, you can reach out to your counterparts in HR, your peers in operations, or your peers in finance, and sit down with them and say, okay, so how do you structure your reporting in your data? So what we found is a lot of times folks want to report out on indirect versus direct labor, or group based on a business unit, and that grouping might not just naturally exist in the payroll and HR solution. So we really allow some flexibility there that might be helpful.
Yeah, Jana, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that, because the beauty is, like Jana said, maybe you're in charge of a specific business unit and you don't know what cost centers are in the Workforce Go system, but you still want to know what's happening in your business unit. We can work to make sure that that person gets the view that they need to be successful. So maybe it's a combination of a couple different departments or job types that a person is responsible for. You can see here we could make multiple selections in order to give that person that view that they need. And then we can save that view as a preset and allow them to view the preset that is the thing that's important to them. The last thing I'll mention on the filters panel is just the ability to move through time periods and adjust granularity. So when you think about data, people have different reasons that they use data and different time frames that are important for their business. So one example would be if you're a retail store and you're really keyed in on Black Friday until the end of December. That's not a specific month or quarter. Rather, it's a very customized frame that's really important to that business. So we give you the ability to come in and actually set a custom date range that will present your data in that fashion, in that date range. And so you can enter that in, and then if you want to see during that date range, if you keep in mind Black Friday to the end of December, we want to see that by week or by day. We come in, give you that ability, allow you to slice and dice in that fashion. The next dashboard that we'll run through here is talent overview. So we get talent overview questions a lot. We have a lot of customers that are really keyed in on this, and it's a fun dashboard. We have a lot of people who are very engaged when they look at this dashboard. When you think about what they're doing on here, there's a laundry list of things, but some of the most popular are what comprises my workforce. What people are working for me, whether that's just a pure count or if it's who's current, who's terminated. Maybe it's who's a boomerang, who's a rehire, someone that's left and come back. Are there multiple rehires in a specific department? Or is a manager oftentimes rehiring certain people? Trends like that. Demographic trends. So are we equally distributed for males and females, or our generational distribution? Do we have too many millennials or not enough millennials? How can we backfill the folks that are leaving our organization with younger folks? Or do we have the right mixture of diversity folks in a given department? And so this is the dashboard where you're going to start to drill into those questions or trends. Additionally, what we find with this dashboard is that people are hoping to understand when it is that people are leaving. You can see that, again, if you break something down, cross-filter by a generation of a specific department, start to see what's the tenure in that department when are those people leaving? What's the average time that they're staying? But then more importantly, why are those folks leaving? And so you think about, I cross-filtered here by boomers, and you think, okay, I'm a department manager, and I want to know, what do I need to do to make sure I have enough people working for me in my department to make sure that I can hit my goals? And you can see here a lot of boomers. So I went ahead and cross-filtered, and pretty high boomer population, 139 active in the boomer category. And you can see here their tenure is 15 plus years. That's a very high tenure. The most folks are concentrated in that 15 plus year bracket. And that signals to me, wow, I've got a lot of folks that are probably closer to retirement than I do, starting their career. And so I need to know, are those people leaving for a specific reason other than retirement, or are they leaving for another job that's a better job or a promotion? And so I can see that here, all because I want to make sure I'm backfilling my department with the proper folks. And if people are leaving for a reason other than retirement, let's say it's, for the sake of example, too little pay, when I'm making those hiring decisions and bringing in new folks, I want to make sure that I don't let pay be a reason for people leaving my department, causing high turnover and thus greater labor expense. The next dashboard that I want to walk through here is time and labor. So when you think about time and labor, there's a couple things that come to mind. Again, a number of different reasons that a person would use time and labor, but this is going to be more of a scheduling and operationally focused dashboard. So if you're a manager and you come in and you want to understand your scheduling, are you scheduling enough people? Are you scheduling too many people? Are we not scheduling enough, and is that causing overtime, causing a hiked labor expense? This is the place where you're going to come and you're going to start to explore these visuals. So if we go with that overtime example, you're trying to determine, do I have an overtime problem? You'll hop in, you'll look at this hours worked visual. And the nice part is we can pull in your scheduled hours and then compare those to your actuals. So you can get a sense for, am I trending at, above, or below my scheduled hours? That should give you a pretty good sense for if you're headed for overtime. So you can see, looks like I'm trending for May above my scheduled hours. So likely going to have some overtime. And then you can come into labor expense and see, okay, looks like I was scheduled for more, or I've worked more than I was scheduled. That's causing a spike in my labor expense. So looks like maybe I want to continue to investigate my overtime hypothesis. And then right here in the same dashboard, we can give you your overtime hours. So now you can compare, is my trend in overtime hours matching my trend in spiked labor expense? If the answer is no, maybe you need to start looking for another reason. If the answer is yes, as we continue through this dashboard, we can see, okay, now I want to know, well, why is that spike in overtime happening? What's happening in my department that's causing me to have that increased labor hours in the form of overtime? What we found with our customers is that a number of those customers are saying that exceptions are causing overtime. And people want to know who exactly is causing overtime in the form of an exception. And so we give you the ability to drill into this visual. So now you can see who in your department or in your organization is having exceptions such as early out or late in, or maybe it's absenteeism, they're gone the whole time. Who is causing that, and how can we repair that, change schedules to work with that person to make sure they're not causing overtime. So I'm switching gears here to the workforce planning dashboard, but I'm staying with my overtime example. And so you've got your overtime, you've understood that you are incurring overtime hours, and you've started to dig into who's causing the overtime. But now I want to know, what's the result of that? Who is working those overtime hours? How is that impacting each department? So as I look at workforce planning, I'm going to start to dig into overtime again here. And so I can come in and I can again cross filter by overtime. And now I can see here in the total hours visual which departments are working the most overtime. So I can see that my customer support is working 3,000 hours of overtime, which is the highest in my organization. So now I want to drill into just the customer support. And okay, now we can see there's call center and there's order entry, and looks like call center again has the most overtime. So I want to continue to drill down there. And what I'm going to do is actually drill all the way down to the employee level. And I'm going to see who in that department is working the most overtime. And the reason that someone would do this is a couple things, right? The first may be, I don't want to work any individual employee too many overtime hours for the fear of burnout, which could cause turnover or something like that. But I also don't want to work someone too few hours of overtime for the sake that they may feel they're not getting paid enough. Or maybe you just want to start to understand, are there folks that aren't working enough hours of regular hours that I could be giving some of these overtime hours to further balance out my labor expense, get under my labor expense budget? So this dashboard really allows you to drill into who is working that overtime and how you can start to move things around, better schedule, better understand how you can mitigate the impact of that overtime. Again, sticking with the same example here as we walk through human capital investment, that overtime, one last portion of it is how much is overtime costing me. So you can see who is causing the overtime, who's then working the overtime, but everybody ultimately wants to know, what does that mean for my bottom line? And that's where we can come in and show you exactly what you're spending in your total human capital investment, but then also break that out and show you, here's what you're looking at in overtime expense that you're paying out to your folks, and here's the trend. Are we on par with the same time last year? Are we on par with the prior month or the prior week? All of those things that you want to be able to see to further make decisions. So the last dashboard here, before I bounce back into the PowerPoint to close this out, is wage and benefit. And wage and benefit is a great place to come to get a handle on a couple things. So one of the things I've been hearing from customers quite frequently is we want to use what we're paying our folks to create a budget. A lot of people don't have a good grasp on the different components that they're paying their employees, all wrapped into one to make budgets. People don't know what does it cost for a given department if I need to make an additional hire or 2 to 3 hires in my sales department or in my shipping department. So they can come in and again, use the filters panel to filter down the data and see what's my total compensation for that sales department or even an individual employee, and start to make budgets based on what you're actually paying your people. That way, when a hiring manager comes to you and says, hey, I need to make a hire, I don't have enough folks, you can start to weigh the pros and the cons of that, because not only can you see their total compensation, but then you can also see the impacts of, if I don't hire that person, I'm going to start to accrue overtime hours, or I'm going to maybe experience employee burnout and thus turnover. But this gives you a good sense for what you're paying your folks in wages, in commissions, in employer paid taxes. Maybe you're contributing to a 401k or a health savings account, something of that nature. All those different components that make up what you're paying an employee, we start to break those down for you, help you get a sense for each of those categories. The other thing I see a lot in this dashboard that people are hoping to understand is make better decisions about their benefit plans. So look at, over time, who is enrolled in what benefit plan. Are there benefit plans that maybe are being underutilized that you would like to increase participation? Or maybe there's a benefit plan that is very underutilized and you could get rid of entirely. But employers want to come in and be able to understand which benefit plans are the best and which ones are my employees enrolled in, but then also use benefit plans when employees come in with questions. So having this information could help you answer a question such as an employee walking into their manager's office and saying, hey, I need to pay for my child's vision. They need glasses or contacts, and I need a raise to pay for that. You can come in, filter down to that employee, see this dashboard, see what they're making, see the breakdown, and maybe you see when they come into your office that they're not participating in the employee plus family vision plan. And you say, hey, you would save a lot of money just by enrolling in this benefit plan. That would help you take just a little bit out of your monthly paycheck and pay for your child's glasses rather than pay for them out of pocket. So you can help to answer some of those questions from employees as well. So that's a high-level run-through of all the dashboards. We walked through just a couple examples, looked at the filters panel. We talked a little bit about that outside data, talked about filtering, cross-filtering, drilling into visuals. The last feature item that I want to point out to you is this tutorial pane. So one of the things that I talked about with our customer success and onboarding teams was that you'll learn how to use the solution. The nice part here is in-app, we give you the ability to actually come in and understand what visuals are on the dashboard, how they're being calculated, how you may use them, how you may tweak them to be more relevant to you, but then also how to interact with them. So you've noticed that I've done a number of things when I've clicked, moved about the dashboards. All of those technical items are here at your fingertips right within the app. So hopefully quick, easy for you to use, understand, and get the most out of the dashboards. With that said, I'm going to pop us back into the PowerPoint and close us out. So you got to see the dashboards. You understand a little bit about how we came to be a company. We know about the partnership with Workforce Go, the ability for you all to utilize this solution. So as far as working with us, it's really simple. I already talked to you about onboarding, and really only takes just a couple hours of your time and a couple weeks to get going. Typically what we like to do is schedule a one-off demo or conversation, something informal where we can start to get to know you, understand those use cases, the ways in which that our dashboards and our product suite can help you as a customer, and where we'll align and where we'll focus. From there, we'll go through that process, and then you'll meet your customer experience manager. We like to call them insight coaches. They work with you through the life cycle of your time as an Analytically customer. Again, they work with you to teach you how to use the solution, but how to leverage the solution as well. And so we'll get you introduced to that person. We'll get you synced and gone through the onboarding process. We'll train you, and then from there, we'll work with you again, and you'll be thinking analytically. We'll continue to update you with product information as we roll out new product, but we'll also ping you, poke you, prod you for more feedback and ideas that you may have, things that our dashboards you would like to see in them, things that maybe you'd like to tweak a little bit. Like I said, we're very open to feedback, and we're hypersensitive to what our customers want, and we'll take that, we'll roll it in, we'll democratize it through our other customers, let them know kind of what we're thinking. We'll take those polls and we'll continue to better our product.
Does anyone have any questions before we close this webinar out? You can type them in the question area at the bottom of your screen. But if not, we will make the recording available on our YouTube channel on the Workforce Go website. I'm sorry, the Workforce Go YouTube channel. And if you want to request a recording, you can always drop an email to info@myworkforcego.com. And thank you guys from Analytically. Again, that was Jana Fielberth and Nick Waltz. And I appreciate you doing this with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.